Guys, as much as I fly United, this is my first ever inaugural flight with them. Okay, anyways, I know I sound congested, but I blame it on this. Currently in Boston right now, wrapping up a work trip where the foliage is absolutely beautiful and I'm enjoying it, but my nose punishes me for doing so. Anyways, we are flying to Marrakesh, Morocco. But before we can get to the fun, let's go to the airport and let's go to Newark first. Let's see if popping one of these guys will help me. It's Claritin D, by the way. After arriving at Boston's Logan International Airport, it was a quick 1 hour and some change flight down over to Newark, and from there we arrived at Terminal A, and so I had to transfer to Terminal C. For those that don't know, Terminal C is where all of United's main operations and long-haul flights leave from, and it's also where our party begins today. If you're flying Polaris on United, there is a dedicated check-in counter that they share with Premier 1K passengers, and if you're a part of the Uber exclusive Global Services Status Club, then you are probably not watching this video. Now I have to say, of all the times that I've flown out of Newark, this is easily the least crowded that I've ever seen security, and that includes the TSA pre-check line. Once you cross security, the Polaris Lounge is just a short walk away as you're making your way towards the gate. Oh, excuse me, just walking by Delta and American real quick. Wait, what? Anyways, finally, some indicator of our inaugural flight, as there was a nicely decorated poster waiting for us here in the Polaris Lounge. Before I show you the rest of the Polaris Lounge, let me introduce you to somebody rather important. That right there is Patrick Quayle, and his team is responsible for all the amazing routes that you see United launch. We'll see more of him later, but for now, we'll enjoy the Polaris Lounge ourselves, where it was a classically crowded evening and the dining room wait was 40 minutes. Of course, for Patrick Quayle himself, there was no wait as he had a busy evening himself and they let him through right away. The bar in the Polaris Lounge is pretty well situated and is a great place to rack up some drinks and spike your blood alcohol levels while you get some work done and wait for food. Outside of the bar, the Polaris Lounge itself does afford a lot of different kinds of seating options based on your needs and where there's space. Quicker than expected, my table did eventually open up, and here's a quick look at the menu that was available in the lounge today. You can pretty much order whatever you want and how much ever you want of each dish, and the dish sizes are relatively small, so you can sample a few different kinds of dishes if you'd like. With all your food orders, the lounge staff will also offer you a drink of your choice, for which I went with champagne, which was a terrible idea considering I had Claritin D earlier in the day. But in any case, the first dish that I got was the Midnight Moon Cheese Plate, as they called it, and the second dish was the Fall Roast Vegetable Salad. Unfortunately, the salad was just a pile of arugula leaves, squash, and pomegranate. There really wasn't anything more to it, but the cheese plate was pretty good. Now, I usually don't do dessert, but United Polaris Lounge's chocolate chip skillet cookie is absolutely an exception worth making every single time. If for whatever reason you're not able to dine with the Polaris dining room because the wait is too long or you don't have enough time, the Polaris Lounge also has an exceptional buffet that has all kinds of different hot and cold food options to satisfy whatever your dietary needs may be. And like I was saying earlier, if not the dining room or the bar, there's plenty of other kinds of seating throughout the lounge. Okay, last up before we go off to all the festivities, let's check out the lounge showers. Before you shower, if you happen to be missing anything that you need, the Polaris Lounge actually has you decently covered with amenities of their own. Each shower suite does also come with a toilet and a sink, so you can also use this place for a bio break if you need. And like I said, if you leave any shower related amenities at home, not to worry, United has you covered. As we wrap up our shower, this is where I turn my mic off for a little bit so we can all fully take in all the pre-flight fun and festivities.
Special event, and we're going to be sending you off to Marrakesh, Morocco tonight. And if you didn't eat yet, there is some incredible Moroccan President Global Network Planning and Alliances, Patrick Quayle. Patrick.
Greenland and Palermo and Dakar coming up, we're now going to serve more destinations across the Atlantic than all other U.S. airlines combined. And so tonight we're adding our 5th destination in Africa, which is particularly impressive.
So with that, I'm going to introduce the Deputy Mayor of Newark. Love to have her say the podium.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Eventually the celebrations died down and people got ready for boarding, and quite frankly this was the surprise to me. Maybe this is my first inaugural so I didn't realize, but the number of global service and 1Ks were through the roof.
Can you open up the battery compartment before you?
Yeah, it's empty.
Thank you.
Step on up, look it to the camera for me. Any more 1K members? You're all set, thank you. Have a good one.
Considering that this was my first ever inaugural, the pre-flight festivities had really raised the bar to something that I wasn't even expecting. But with that out of the way, now I was really excited for the next phase of this journey, which is the onboard experience.
Good evening. Welcome. Hello, how are you?
As we work our way over to our seat, let me give you a quick rundown of the 767 Polaris cabin. The 787 and 777 Polaris cabins are well known for having that signature middle honeymoon couple seat, as well as just generally seats in the same row. However, with the 767 staggered layout, that's not possible, as you have one set of seats facing one aisle and the other set of seat opening up on the other side of the aisle. However, the window side seats are virtually identical across United's entire wide-body fleet, with the odd-numbered rows being a little bit more private, just like this one, and then the even-numbered seats facing out towards the aisle like the one that I have. The one caveat I will say is that the 767 seats are a couple inches narrower than the Polaris seats on the 777, just by virtue of the aircraft itself being a little narrower. We'll have a look at all the inaugural goodies in just a second, but I'd like to just point out that I was seated around 3 or 4 different travel bloggers, and I don't think I've ever had that in my life at any point. Alright, inaugural goodies. First we got a keychain, which was pretty cool. Then there's the Amenity Kit. There's nothing special about this one, we'll have a look at it later. A boarding pass, which is good for pictures. A postcard, which I guess you can write to somebody if you want. A welcome note from Patrick Quayle. And I'm not exactly what to do with this guy, but I guess maybe more pictures. As far as the more standard Polaris amenities go, we had the usual duvet cover, pillow, gel cooling pillow, blanket, and a mattress topper if you wanted one. I think United does a really good job with the Polaris bedding in general, and it's among the best in business class. Shortly thereafter, the purser came around with pre-departure beverage of water or sparkling wine, and in the spirit of appealing to my more alcoholic side, I chose the latter. Okay, quick seat tour. There's a foot cubby to store your feet, a tray table, another kind of storage, and a USB port. Off to your right side of the seat, there will be a storage compartment where you'll find your headphones, a water bottle, and even a vanity mirror so you can look at yourself and tell yourself how pretty you are. Just below that is a center console where you can keep drinks and other quick items during the flight. Here is also the remote, which I really didn't use, as well as a universal power port and where your headphones get plugged in. The seat controls are easy to use and, in my opinion, have always been pretty self-explanatory. One other cool thing about this flight is that we got special inaugural edition Pajamas, which we'll look at later, and normally this flight wouldn't get because it's relatively short. Eventually, Patrick himself came to give menus to everybody in the Polaris cabin, and they had a completely different look from what we've seen in the post-COVID era. We'll have a deeper look at this menu once we get up in the air.
The inaugural flight 628 with service to Marrakesh. Very exciting flight. We'd like to thank our Mileage Plus members for your loyalty and tolerance.
As we begin our pushback, I'm not sure whether to be surprised or not surprised by this, but we honestly pushed back pretty much on time, which, given that this was an inaugural, I expected some kind of inaugural related delays, but we really didn't have any. Anyways, with all that said, we'll see you back in the air just shortly after takeoff. be completely honest, I really like the new menu design. It adds a nice little personal touch of whatever destination it is that we're flying to. The menu for this flight looked incredibly promising. I've never seen a palate cleanser on a United Polaris menu before. I wanted to try almost every single dish on this menu, and maybe that's just Moroccan food. Moroccan food is pretty good, so the threshold for these dishes is pretty high. Unfortunately, there were some logistical complications that prevented us from being able to have any of the frozen dessert items, and that includes the mid-meal palate cleanser. Basically, as of the time of this flight, United had not yet secured any storage space in Marrakesh airport for any of its cutlery or plating, and so the return flight could not have been catered out of Marrakesh. This flight and the return flight had to be double catered in Newark itself, and so unfortunately, to make extra space for that, the Sunday cart had to be left behind. Airline logistics is always a fun thing, and sometimes not, but I know the chef who designed this menu was not very happy about this, but that's okay, things happen. United has one of the most responsive in-flight entertainment systems in the entire industry, I think, and a pretty solid one too, and a good selection of movies and TV shows should you choose to indulge yourself on this 7-hour 2-minute flight. The lavatories were standard 767 lavatories, nothing too special about them, except for everyone's favorite throne, of course, including a large mirror, as well as different creams and facial sprays that United always likes to throw in there. As for the PJs, they had a really cool design of the inaugural flight details as well as the Marrakesh Medina on top of it, and for a size guide, if you're not American, I recommend going for small medium, and if you are American, if you're a normal sized American, probably go for large. If you are a undersized American like myself, go for small medium. The one thing I did not understand is why there was a right side pocket but none on the left side. As someone who carries too many things on my body for absolutely no reason at all, I needed both of those pockets. United in general does a pretty good job with Wi-Fi across their entire fleet, and Wi-Fi was indeed available for this flight. If you just want to send text messages across iMessage, WhatsApp, or Messenger, it's entirely free for the whole flight, but if you want to do something a little bit more powerful, there are different paid Wi-Fi plans which are decently priced in my opinion. At this point, with all the pre-flight commotion and post-flight start, there was only one thing left to do, and that was eat. I was absolutely starving at this point. But on this lovely evening, Mother Nature had other plans as we were circling thunderstorms for pretty much the first 2 hours of the flight, and it was only then that the crew could begin their service. The drinks cart came around, everyone got warm nuts, and I chose champagne for my drink. The appetizer tray consisted of a cold smoked duck dish, a side salad that the menu claims to be Moroccan, as well as some garlic bread. Basically, goat cheese goes really well with duck. Side salads are good as long as you put lemon vinaigrette in it. Garlic bread is great as long as you can sensually feel it like this. Don't know why I'm doing that. And I really hate tomatoes. Unfortunately, the crew did forget about me for a little bit, but when they did come and find me, the lamb was absolutely delicious. It was tender, tasty, and just honestly a perfect main course altogether. The panna cotta, which was already on our tray, was not that sweet, and I think that's just the way I like it. Remember, no ice cream today because the ice cream carts were never loaded in order to make room for the return flight's food. Having a little bit slower than usual service because of the inaugural, as well as the weather to start the flight, meant that there was really only about 2.5 to 3 hours until the next meal, so at this point I made sure I pretty much set myself up to go to bed immediately. Some people sleep well on planes, some don't, but I'll tell you this, United's excellent Polaris bedding makes it really easy to sleep as well as you possibly can. Hot towels were given to each passenger as we were waking up, and even though they're given to us warm, I like to cool them down beforehand. Breakfast was a trip down memory lane for me. As soon as they put this dish in front of me, I instantly remembered the last time I had this was honestly during the COVID era. It was a flight from Newark to Munich, and this was the exact same breakfast that time. It's an egg quiche, and the pastry is so soft and flaky you can cut right through it, as I'm clearly having great success doing. But once you do get through it, you'll be glad you did. And as promised, here's a quick look at the Amenity Kit. It had the standard Polaris stuff like face creams, socks, earplugs, and brushing kits, but no merch specific to this inaugural. As breakfast was wrapping up, we actually just started entering Morocco, and I got my first view of what was the Atlas Mountains as well as the Moroccan countryside. As we wrap up this flight, I have a lot of thoughts to share, but first, let's get on the ground, enjoy some Moroccan hospitality, and take in some Marrakesh views.
The local time is 10:08. We hope you enjoy your time here or wherever your travels take you. And if this is home, we welcome you home. Please stay comfortably seated until that seatbelt sign is turned off. You may continue to use and charge your phones and tablets. If you are sitting in the exit row, please do not plug your device in the outlets. Please make sure you check your seat back pocket to make sure you have all the belongings you brought on board with you. Please be careful when opening up those overhead bins.
As I said, I have a lot of thoughts on this flight, both high level and low level. Let's talk high level first. Patrick Quayle, Matt Stevens, whoever else on United's route network and planning team who is responsible for the ideation, creation, and execution of this route, well done. I mean, from what I saw on the American side of things and the Moroccan side of things, there's clear excitement on this route. On the American side of things, I was just casually looking at this flight 1 month out, 2 months out, and plenty of dates where bookings are already, the aircraft is more than 50% full in both Polaris, Premium, and Economy. And I think that's already a great sign, a promising sign that this route has huge traction and a lot of potential to be successful and last a very long time. On the Moroccan side of things, I was in Marrakesh for a few days, and I had a chance to talk to a lot of the locals. Not anything to do with the flight, just casual conversation about the country, that I was excited to be there. And when a lot of them found out that I was American, they brought up the route actually and said, "Hey, did you know that there's a US flight that just started directly?" And that's where the conversation kind of began. And a lot of them said that they were super proud that their hometown, that their city was connected to the US directly. and that if they ever had the chance to visit the US, this was a flight that they would consider taking rather than getting on Royal Air Maroc and heading to Casablanca, connecting to the US, or flying through Europe. They were truly excited about this. So, like I said, on the American side of things and on the Moroccan side of things, both sides were excited. And I think that makes a great recipe for this route being very successful for a very long time. That's high level. And now on the lower level side of things, I think overall the flight was pretty good. And I think there are a few things that United Airlines will figure out about this flight as time goes on. Obviously, inaugural flights are great, they're fun, they're festive, but logistically there are some things to work out. For example, one of the signature things about United Airlines is the ice cream cart and the ice cream sundaes for dessert. Unfortunately, that couldn't be there this time because, as I was saying, as of the time of the flight, United didn't even have any storage space at Marrakesh Medina Airport secured for any of its plating. And as a result of that, they had to double cater the flight for the return flight, and they couldn't cater the Sunday cart. The crew made it seem like that was just an inaugural flight thing, that problem would be solved going forward. That's one thing. Another thing is the flight's only 7 hours, and based on the geographic location of Marrakesh latitudinally, I expect that to be more or less the same throughout all times that the flight is operating. And you'd think that, hey, but you're flying to Africa, surely the flight's long. No. But Marrakesh and Morocco as a country is pretty far west geographically in Africa, and so the flight's relatively short. It's not that much longer than flying from New York to London, for example. It's quite short, actually. And so the service, includes a full dinner service, a full breakfast service, and then there's also a mid-flight snack. And of course, I love that United has all the food in the world, and I appreciate it. I think a lot of that food is honestly going to go waste. I mean, if you think about how much food you eat in 7 hours normally, and that's 7 hours of being awake. Now think about, you get on a flight at 9:45 p.m. Let's just say you eat the full dinner, and normally it'll be done maybe 2.5 hours into the flight. You only have 4.5 hours of flight left. You're going to go right to sleep. There's minimal people that are going to be staying awake. And by the time you wake up, you'll eat breakfast. If that, a lot of people did not. But then, the mid-flight snack, no one's really touching that. And so, and I get that United's going to have it. It's a staple on all their Polaris flights. But I think there is way more food on this route than what this route will need. But other than that, the flight was great. I think this is a route that has huge potential to be successful for a very long time. I'm excited. This route has made me inspired to come back to Morocco to visit for longer. And the next time I do come, well, I know exactly how I'm getting there. So I think this was a very, very well done route by United, and I'm really excited for what's to come with this.